breaches. Digital fraud can undo years of progress overnight. Cybersecurity isn't just an IT issue, it's a leadership imperative. Now, this next fireside chat session will explore why the most powerful leaders in today's economy are the ones who understand how to protect the bag, just as strategically as they chase it. So do me a favor, turn your attention to this stage and join me in welcoming two experts who live and breathe this mission every day. Up first, Melissa Caraballo, who is Vice President of Global Security, Identity, and Access Management at RBC, and Kendrick Bagnall, who is the founder of Cone Cyber and former cybercrime unit investigator with the Toronto Police Services. Now together they'll unpack what it takes to secure not just systems, but the future of business itself. Join me and welcome them to the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. Now, I spoke at InCyber in Montreal last month, and we had nothing like that sing-along that you all just did. That was amazing. So, Kendrick Bagnall, I'm a former cybercrime investigator with the Toronto Police Service. Before that, I had about 2 decades in IT, primarily working in technology infrastructure. And more recently, since leaving the Toronto Police, I'm a cybersecurity consultant, entrepreneur, and we are running RB Cyber, which is producing the best cyber insurance product for small and medium-sized business. I'm really privileged to be with Melissa today. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
So my name is Melissa Caraballo. I'm an executive at RBC in the Cybersecurity division. I'm also a board member at William Osler Hospital, where the minister is his riding. And I have a nonprofit organization where I'm the vice chair. It's all about diversity and inclusion for identity. Identity is a very core platform, especially when we talk about AI, because all of AI is built on identity. And I think we're going to get a little bit more into that in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, no, we're going to get into that. Now, you're an expert in cyber, you're an expert in identity and access management, and we're living in a world now of AI and automation, and it's drastically reshaping how we look at security, how we look at data, how we look at privacy. Now, how can mainstream leaders today both be impactful, in your opinion, from both an influence and a trust perspective?
Yeah, trust is something that it takes a long time to earn, but it's lost really fast. And so we have a responsibility as leaders to make sure that when we look at data, we have to classify the data. I don't know how many individuals work in organizations where data's been gathered over years, but data has a lot of bias in it. And so as we race to put AI forward, if it's using that data, we can have a lot of gaps and vulnerabilities. It's up to all of us to train the AI. So when you look at things out there, for example, in the medical field, or if you take banking, which is where I work, the last thing we want is our AI to access all your bank account information. We don't want somebody to be able to ask a question about your bank account. And so it's really important for us to have that responsibility. The other area is to make sure we're simulating. So in our organizations, we need to simulate these incidents.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that has come up as a big topic around AI is in terms of trust and building in those safeguards. From a law enforcement background perspective, one of the things I think about is criminal negligence. Now, for developers that are working on language models and developing these things, it is the opinion on the legal side right now that if there's even the slightest possibility of misuse of some of these technologies, the absence of putting those safeguards in place is tantamount to negligence. Now, we've talked a little bit about trust and influence, and the heavy weight arguably is on the trust side. So really, what does it take from your experience to build and sustain trust in this space?
Kind of complicated and a very long answer to that question, but I think it's a matter of ensuring that we're providing services that individuals, you like to know that when you interact with us, you're interacting with a person. And as we move towards the generation of AI, it's not possible. And in some cases, you don't know if the other person on the other end of the phone is a person, or it could be a deep fake, or it could be, some kind of artificial intelligence. I think what you said was really important. And so it's a matter of not only trust, but influence. It's up to each of us to make sure that we're getting the insights, we're gathering information, and we're influencing. You, all of you, don't need to be a cybersecurity expert. You can influence the way in which we as businesses operate and use AI ethically and without bias.
All right, so I mean, you're with RBC, massive institution, #1 in Canada, top 3 domestically when it comes to a lot of the work that's gone into AI. You know, hundreds of PhDs, hundreds of developers, and a lot of patents since 2019 in the AI space. Not every leader, certainly in this room, has access to those types of resources. What do you think in terms of leaders developing, in your opinion?
Yeah, so number 1 is to leverage AI. So whether it be ChatGPT, Copilot, ask the questions. Start practicing from a prompt perspective. Start knowing what to ask for, and then give feedback. Make sure if you don't like the answer, we're not just relying on it, we're cleaning up the data. I think another thing that we have to do is we have to go back to our roots. So when you look at a lot of the cyber attacks out there, people don't have their PhD in cybersecurity. They're finding a gap or vulnerability. And so it takes all of us and all of your knowledge to figure out where those vulnerabilities are so that we can strengthen our security. Because the reality is, by the time we understand the cyber issue, it's already obsolete and they're on to something else. And so we're reliant on all of you to understand the processes.
Right. So I can tell you, 18 years with Toronto Police Service, I spent the last 9 years as a cybercrime investigator. And I can tell you, having investigated dozens and dozens of breaches, I can always tell walking into the room which one of the organizations I really understood the risk reduction aspect around cyber, have put themselves in a position where they can maintain resiliency across their enterprise, and then they can be in a position to quickly respond and recover. When I go into a meeting with an organization in the wake of a cyber incident, if the CEO is in the room, if the leader is in the room, then I really know that this company is organized and they have a lot going on. Now let's go back to the AI conversation. We heard a lot about human in the loop, keeping that human element in the loop as AI is being developed and deployed. What are some of your thoughts around that?
I think it's really important. I mean, if you look at some of the data and the biases in the data, so we were in a talk earlier today, we were talking about the fact that people are building AI, but on data that is old and has a lot of biases in it. So you hear the stories where to screen resumes, they're leveraging AI and data. While for women and for diversity, not a lot of those people got jobs before. And so we have to take data, the data we want to see, not the data that is when we're making those decisions. If you look at in the medical profession, do you want some of that AI to perform your operation to determine if you're going to get, if you're the candidate for a transplant? We really have to look and have that human in the loop to make those final decisions. But it's moving very fast. And so we have to jump right into it to be able to give feedback to make the change.
Yeah, and and I don't want to date myself, human in the loop. One of the things I did early in my tech career before law enforcement, working in IT with an insurance company, we were one of the first in Canada to develop an early machine learning model. Basically, it was an expert system that replaced the human being in doing life insurance underwriting. Now, the human in the loop aspect there was really a confidence level. The AI, the early AI and machine learning expert system would issue a policy, but with a confidence level. And it would never decline. It would always refer to a human underwriter for an opinion on whether or not the policy had validity at all. So, you know, in terms of developing and growing within the space of AI from a leadership perspective, where do you see some of the gaps? We hear a lot about the tech gap, the training gap, the skills gap. We hear a lot about it. What do you see from a leadership perspective in terms of the gaps, the delta?
I think it's not embracing AI and the technology and not allowing our teams. We put a lot of guardrails in as cybersecurity specialists, and we need to be more guiders as opposed to gatekeepers. I was at a panel yesterday, and one of the things I heard was an interesting stat. So the refrigerator took 50 years to get into the mainstream from when it was invented to be adopted. What did they say? Cell phones took 20 years to be really adopted widespread. Instagram was 2 years, and OpenAI took 2 months to hit that. And if you think about how fast it's accelerating, us as leaders, if we do not start to embrace it and use it, it's going to be behind us. And cyber criminals are going to start taking advantage of us.
Well,